This is episode 4 of creating my very own finance app. In the last part, I created a form. Now it's time to do the pages where the details of each job, whether part-time or full-time, will be displayed. I will show you what I did, so let's go. I surround each job title with a button which calls the function handle click when clicked. The user will then be navigated to the page where the details of each page will be displayed using the use navigate by navigating to their individual job details using their ID. In the app.jsx file, I will produce a job details page component which I imported at the top. When the user goes to this route, at the job details page, I imported useState, useEffect from React, and useParams from React Router DOM. useParams is a hook from React Router DOM that allows you to access the URL parameter. In Express, you use request.body, but in frontend, you use useParams. I extracted the ID parameter from the URL. This ID will be used to fetch the specific job details from the database. This useState initializes the state variable job to null, and will hold the job details once fetched. This useState will initialize the state variable error to null, and will hold an error message if the fetch operations fail. I use the useEffect to perform data fetching operation. Inside it, I fetch the individual job by creating an async function. It sends a GET request to a specific URL to fetch the job details and save it to a variable response, and then making it a JSON variable. If the response is successful, the job state will be updated with the fetch job details. If the response is not successful, the error state is updated with the error message from the response. Any other errors caught during the fetch operations will also be set in the error state. The dependency array ID ensures that the useEffect runs whenever the ID changes. Now, this line is crucial. It checks if the job is still null, meaning that the data is not being fetched yet, or no job is found. If job is null, it renders a simple message, no job found. This also provides a way to handle the waiting period while the data is being fetched, and prevents rendering error if job is null. The component conditionally renders either part-time page or full-time page, based on whether the job has a part-time rate greater than 0. If the part-time rate of the job is more than 0, it means that the job has a part-time rate, so part-time page is rendered with the job details passed as props. If not, full-time page is rendered with the job details passed as props. Before doing this page, I added text variable. I forgot about that. Now back to the full-time page. With the job details prop passed from the job details page, I am able to display the total earnings with this formula. Full-time rate, bonus, employer name, employer contact, and text. At the bottom, I want to show the date that this job is created. With the help of ChatGPT, I formatted the date produced by MongoDB and converted it into a readable date. The date created comes from the request.body, which follows a schema, which contains the created app variable. After setting the full-time page to display its necessary details, it's time to focus on the part-time page. The part-time page will display the total earnings of the day, the start and end times, and additional information like break hours, break pay, and bonuses, which contributes to the calculating of the total earnings when they click the information button. I want to save this in the database, so that the data can be easily accessed. This means creating a new schema and model for the part-time data, plus setting up the API routes with controllers to interact with the database. In the schema folder, I created a new file to store the part-time details per day, then created a model around it. This will create a new document in the same database. Everything seems fine. The user click on the job, and they will be shown either a part-time or full-time page based on the job type. For the part-time page, users can log their daily work details, but here's an issue. If the user works multiple jobs on the same day and logs them, the database ends up with the records for the same date, but there is no way to tell which record belongs to which job. This makes it impossible to retrieve the specific job details for the given day. How do I fix that? I added the job ID to the daily part-time data in the database. Now, when retrieving the data, I can filter it by the job ID to ensure only the relevant records for that job will be displayed. So with that out of the way, let's do the API routes first. In the API route for fetching the job details, I updated the logic to include both the job information, full-time and part-time, and the associated part-time records for the job, if it's part-time. I get the part-time records by the job ID and sorted the date by descending order. It will then produce a JSON that contains both the job and the part-time times. Keep this in mind. Add a status code of 200. At the front end, in the job details page, I use the useState to initialize the variables for job and part-times. As I send two data from the backend into a JSON, when fetching the data from the backend, I update these variables. Job is updated with json.job, the job details. Part-times is updated with json.parttimes, the list of daily part-times record. With the part-time variable initialized, I am going to send the data to the part-time page as props. In the part-time page, I receive the prop, then map every part-time data, which means it will produce a list of daily records. The data for each day will be formatted in the part-time list component with the data for each day as props. At the part-time list component, I receive the prop and again formatted the date to be readable so that I can display it. I then return the details for each page, like start time, end time, break hours, etc. On the job details page, I added delete and update buttons at the top to allow users to manage their job entries. I will explain the delete button first. When the delete button is clicked, the handle delete function is activated. In the handle delete function, it will produce a confirm notification to check if the user is sure. If not, nothing happens. If yes, it will go to the try block where the delete method is called for that job ID. Then sends a response which is stored in the variable called response. Once the response is okay, the user will be navigated to the job tracker main page and sends an alert. If not okay, it will send an error. If the whole fetching data process doesn't work, it will produce an error message saying that there is an error deleting a job. For updating a job, when the update button is clicked, this activates the handle update function which sets the onEupdate variable using useDate to true. When the onEupdate variable is true, the update job form component is displayed and sends a job as props. When false, it will display the normal job details components. This update job file produces a form so that I can update the job. I receive the job prop, destructed the job ID from the URL parameters, then initialize the variables needed with the variables from the job prop. The form comes with pre-filled input fields, which is the initial job data from the prop. When the user changes the value in the input field, handle change function is called, which extracts the name of the input field and the new value entered by the user from the input field that is being changed. This function also creates a shadow copy of the existing data to ensure that the other fields remain unchanged. It also updates the property of the form data object, which corresponds to the name of the input element with the new value entered by the user. These all update the job form data, which will be patched in the next step. When the user clicks the update button, this activates the handle update function, which sends a patch request to update the job data from the server, specifies that the request body contains JSON, and the body contains the updated form data as the JSON string. The response will be stored in the variable update job. If the response status is okay, the user will be redirected to job tracker. If not, produces an error message, and if the whole process doesn't work, it will produce an error message. Once the job is updated in the job details page, it will activate the handle update submit function, which sets the updated job as new job, and set onEupdate to false, which then produces the normal job details. So yeah, this is how I created the part-time and full-time pages. Sorry if I sound a bit sick for the whole video, I'm kinda sick. Anyways, just my opinion. Bye.